Hello, Mack. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Greetings from Olani.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you enjoy reading your new comics on the beach this morning?
I did from the balcony. I didn't do it from the beach.
That's still nice.
And I read 2 issues and then I got hot and I came back inside.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, air conditioning is very helpful.
So I'm trying to think, I think news-wise, we've been, Marvel Mania ended last week, and I think we're still waiting on more Disney Plus news we expect, but I'm guessing that might wait until after real news kind of subsides. But we will be chatting about the comics. So where do you want to start today?
Let's jump back into Ten of Swords. It's where we've been starting off for the last few hundred weeks, it feels.
Okay, so the first one was X-Men number 14.
Yeah.
I used my cheat sheet because if you went alphabetically, you would have been screwed up.
Right. And there we go. Yeah, so what were your thoughts on this one? I'm curious because we talked a little bit about tennis. Like I said, we talked about Ten of Swords for the last how many weeks, and I'm curious what you thought about this.
So I liked it overall. I mean, it's an exposition issue with Genesis, Apocalypse's wife, kind of explaining her challenges lately. I feel like a lot of it was actually a rerun from like some of the other tie-ins we had. But we've read basically every Ten of Swords issue, including like some of the prelude stuff. So I don't know if maybe this was sort of necessary for folks that might not have read everything leading up to this and kind of were shocked by the Genesis's appearance at the end of the issue. The one thing that struck me as really weird was the scene where Apocalypse is talking about how he wanted to relax. Like I never thought of like Apocalypse and relaxing, like he needed a break. I mean, besides like the sleeping thing, like I never thought of him like wanting to sit back on the beach and smell the flowers. But
yeah, he doesn't strike me as the gardening type.
Right. I mean, his name is Apocalypse.
Right. Yeah, so we talked last week about how with X-Men, I believe it was X-Men 13 last week, how we both really enjoyed that issue, and it felt like it led right up to the actual Ten of Swords event that we're going to get into. And we enjoyed it, but we're ready to move into the actual story. We're done with the exposition. We're done with the lead-in. And I felt like we got more of the same this week with this particular issue. I do want to say this starts off and grabs you right from the beginning. The art in this issue was stunning. Like right away, the first couple panels of just Apocalypse in, that other world garden that he's just kind of trying to relax in. Really, really amazing artwork in this one. But the story, like you said, it felt like a rerun. It was like just a retelling of the story that we've seen. I felt like we've seen this story now play out from like 3 different points of view, but it's always the same story. So I just kind of felt like, I'm done with this exposition. I'm ready to get into the actual thing.
Yeah, well, and if we move on to Marauders, which is interesting to me because they this is also kind of a retread issue. I mean, I should say a retread issue, like a setup issue. I liked it. Like I liked the interplay of a lot of the characters. Like I thought it was well scripted, but I think we all kind of felt after the sort of stasis issue that like we were going to be moving on to the next phase of this.
Right.
Literally, we had the sort of carbo loading of before the race. So some great stuff with Storm here, Storm and Wolverine, which have been sort of teased as an upcoming storyline. And what's interesting is the next chapter in Ten of Swords is Marauders 15. So you go 2 issues of Marauders back to back, kind of like a double feature. So I guess I just don't know where the battle is going to happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna contradict myself here because I really like this issue.
And I did too. I just
Yeah.
now that I think about it, like, and I think it was just as we were talking about it, like, I'm just sort of, it's sort of, we've been doing this a while, but I love this. Like, I think that the script is strong. I mean, what was your take?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Whereas the other issue, the X-Men issue, was just again that retelling of that same story that we've seen a few times play out now. This was new. This was still the next step leading into the actual fight, and actually gave us a twist that might change things and how things play out going into the Ten of Swords, tournament. And it was also just a really cool concept of the host of this tournament with both sides, holding a big dinner for both sides and them getting to try and to know each other in sort of a friendly way in some aspects, but also like kind of scouting the competition. There were some really great panels with Magic getting to know Iska, which I really enjoyed. But by the way, I have to come back to Iska before we move off of Ten of Swords. But before I do that, I really liked this. I really liked this issue. The cover was great. They revealed this cover a while back before all the Ten of Swords stuff happened. Storm literally dancing with death. I thought that was fantastic. But yeah, I like this, and a great ending, and I'm excited to see where the next Marauders takes us before we get into. And it's funny because I have just been saying, I just want to get into the fight. I just start Ten of Swords, and now I'm like, well, now I want this other step before we get into Ten of Swords.
It kind of reminded me of Clue. like a bunch of people gather together, don't really trust each other. You're not quite sure, there's twists and turns. I guess what surprises me is, and maybe it's just my lack of understanding, but when I read an X-Men event, I expect the big stuff to be happening in X-Men. Whereas actually there's more X-Men in Marauders than there is in X-Men this week. And I mean, if I had to pick, neither is my pick of the week, but if I had to pick a Ten of Swords issue, Marauders would beat X-Men, not even close.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And two quick things before we move off this issue. One, did you read the menu at the beginning of the issue?
No, I didn't.
So they start off with the menu of the dinner that they're going to be served, and the main course was wild horned beast or something, and it explains that the meat was serenaded by Saturnine's like royal choir or something. I thought that was very interesting. So they sing to the meat before they serve it. So I had to point that one out. But also, like I mentioned earlier, I have a problem with Iska, the Unbeaten, one of the champions of Araco. So her superpower is that she can't lose. Sounds awesome, right? Like such a cool character. Like you're just never going to beat this character. But the whole background story that we've gotten several times now,
right,
just about her switching to the winning side. So
it's kind of a cheap way of never losing.
It's not so much a superpower as it is, I can see who's going to win, so then I join that side. This is like if Tom Brady was down by 21 in the fourth quarter and then started, playing for the Giants instead.
Right. Yeah.
All right, now we can move on off of Ten of Swords.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think that's part of the problem with the X-Men universe is like there's so many sort of, if you think it through, so many other things don't make a whole lot of sense. But next we're going to a new comic, U.S. Agent, number 1, U.S. Agent.
Yeah, I've always thought that was a very, kind of difficult name as you're reading it.
Yeah. And I think presumably was initially designed to tie into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Disney Plus series, but late plans.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way.
Written by the iconic Priest, who has gone by many names. What do you think of this one?
I liked it. It's not. It doesn't feel like a big story. Like all the other comics that we read today have like this big scope, and this one kind of shrinks down. But it's not super serious. It takes itself. It plays around. It's very funny. A very enjoyable, easy read kind of issue with some very interesting characters.
Yeah, I wish this one came out not this week. Like after, the election, and I'm not, forget about what, like, I'm just kind of tired of politics. I mean, not even politics, but just people expressing their politics.
Yeah.
And that's sort of a backstory, in this. It's a fun issue, but I think it would have been more fun if we had a little bit of distance from, people talking about factories closing and, red state, blue state. Like, right. I just felt like, I'm in Hawaii trying to ignore, all the news just to relax. And, but I did like it. I do want to continue reading this story. He's an interesting character to me. He's not a good guy, not a bad guy, not an anti-hero. He's kind of just messed up. And, so it's not as tropey as a lot of the comics we read. It's actually sort of a complex character as opposed to, bad guy who's doing good things because he, gets a conscience. Like that story we've had 100 times.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a different story. I don't know that this is one that I feel like, okay, I need to read the second issue and where this goes going forward. But I enjoyed it. I will absolutely read the next one, but it's not something that I would put high on my list, to rephrase that a little bit. Like I said, some interesting characters. I think this will be a lot of people's introduction to the U.S. agent as they, try to, get acquainted with the character before we see him in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I think it's a good introduction. I think it represents the character pretty well. He's sort of this knockoff Captain America who can't quite do things the way he hopes he could. And it's funny. It's entertaining. It's a good, simple read. But definitely not my favorite of the week.
Yeah, it's interesting because they literally show the deficiencies in this wannabe Captain America, like with the shield and
right.
Some character moments that are best read, not from us, but yeah. So moving on, we've got Avengers number 38. Which takes place at a gazillion different time periods.
Right. Yes. That was a little bit hard to, not that it was hard to keep track of because they do give you, when this is happening on each page. But so really this takes place right after Age of Khonshu. But like Benji said, jumps back and forth with different flashbacks to different periods of time. Going back to, billions of years ago with the Celestials creating Earth and all that. I liked this probably more than I liked any particular issue in Age of Khonshu, I think. I am excited to see where the Avengers are going forward. I think Age of Khonshu opened an exciting door, and this one kind of puts its foot in, but doesn't quite commit all the way. And I'm interested to see where they go and which story they really go with, because they really set up two big kind of, I guess you could say two big villains in front of the Avengers here. So I'm interested to see how this plays out.
This is actually my pick of the week.
Okay.
Because, a lot of time with Avengers, they battle a world-shattering thing. Then they take an issue to kind of regroup. Someone will join the Avengers, someone will leave the Avengers, and then there's some other major earth-shattering. And this one, it leads into where they're going with the Phoenix Force, sort of publicly, known, but also doesn't just sort of wrap up Age of Khonshu in a nice little bow. And it really, it talks about how, it gives Mephisto a huge role to play in the entire Marvel universe, which is kind of, like at some point I was like, it's cool, but it's also a little bit like almost overreaching, you know. But I like, you know, and not, you don't normally get these sort of break comics in something like Avengers, especially since Brian Michael Bendis left. So it's nice to have character moments, you know, with the Star Brand and Black Panther. There's some great just sort of you know, interactions, which is the whole point of a team up book.
Yeah, this is a great lineup of Avengers too. I mean, you have classics, you have Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, Black Panther, but then also guys like Ghost Rider, who's been, you know, on the team for a while, but still not. When you think of the Avengers, you don't think of Ghost Rider, you don't think of Blade, even Iron Fist, really. So there's some interesting characters that could be played in different ways going forward. And like you mentioned, they give Mephisto a huge role, not just in this arc, but in the history of the Marvel Universe, with him popping up with different villains and kind of pushing them to create some of the big stories we've seen in Marvel Comics. So I thought that was just really cool. Like, you know, one of those big nerd out kind of moments. Was a fun issue. And like I said, I'm interested to see which way they go with this moving forward.
So speaking of events, you had Web of Venom, Empyre's End, which tries to bridge Empyre with the major Web of Venom event. I would say it's more of a Web of Venom story than an Empyre story.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of scrolls around. But I would guess this is your pick of the week, considering.
Yeah, in a decision that shocks absolutely nobody, the Venom comic is my pick of the week. This was awesome. I loved everything about it, really. You mentioned it's not much of an Empyre story, but the fact that Empyre's in the name, this makes it my favorite issue in the Empyre arc. This was a few weeks back. We read, I think it was Cable. I know it was a Cable-centric story. It might have been like an X-Men title or something like that, where they kind of had that alien sort of vibe, where they were like in the spaceship trapped with these aliens, and then they kind of threw that story away, right, like pretty quickly.
Right.
This was the story I wanted from that. This was everything. This was, I mean, it was Alien. It was the movie Alien, but with symbiotes and with Skrulls running. It was just, everything about it was great. If Marvel was to ever do, and they've kind of dipped their toes in the horror waters with, like, I mean, not Marvel Studios specifically, but Venom and New Mutants and stuff like that. Right. But if they were to ever do a real horror type movie, Null has to be at the center of it. He is a horrifying character, and everything about him is so cool. So I am just so ready to get into King in Black, and this leads directly to it. This is easily my pick of the week, probably one of my favorite issues that we've had in a while.
So my one, I think it was brilliantly executed, like in terms of layout, in terms of it. But I guess my one criticism of it is just, you knew what this title was going to be. Like the minute you see the spaceship, what this is going to be is some third tier characters are going to discover that there's something awful coming, and they're going to have an experience with it, and then they'll be able to either warn the main Marvel Universe or send out a signal or something. You knew what was going to happen, but the execution was very strong. I do have a Null question. So, like, on Null's chest, he's got the Spider-Man symbol.
Yeah.
Is that just like a Venom thing? Like I always figured it was because, you know, Venom had it because he was the black suit, and then,
right.
Like, you know, right? But like, I guess maybe they've explained this, and I haven't read a lot of Venom lately, but
if they've given us an explanation on that, I haven't seen it. I mean, the symbiotes have been communicating, like, from Earth all the way back to Clintar, or I guess it's not really the name of the planet anymore, since Clintar is just Cage, but they've been communicating back and forth. Maybe that's just the symbol that Null went with because of what Venom had been doing. But I don't know. I haven't really gotten a real explanation. I just know that I am very excited for Null to get involved and see King in Black. But you mentioned how, like, we knew what was coming, and what this was. I think the most comparable thing is this was Thanos' ship showing up at the end of Ragnarok, right? Like, this was that exact moment. We knew this whole universe-threatening force is coming, and this is the way that it showed up. So, I mean, yeah, I can write off those characters. We knew that they weren't going to make it, and I'm fine with that, just to lead into what we're getting into.
This would never happen because of the business of comics, but I would have loved this so much more if it was just like a random Empyre like aftermath issue.
Yeah, and that would have been great.
You would have like the reveal would have been that this is happening, like, but because the cover kind of spoils the
sure.
I mean the title kind of spoils the
right.
You know that this is going to be leading into King of Black. I mean, it's just obvious, but so I guess we finally have a split decision. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But going into news, they announced the Toy of the Year awards, and there was some Marvel fun here.
Yeah, Marvel
license of the year.
Yeah. So I mean, not really surprising there. I mean, Marvel puts that. There's so many great Marvel toys every year that we talk about constantly on here. So not really surprising. This along with Star Wars: The Mandalorian also up for this same category as well. So I mean, pretty cool. You can go on and vote for Marvel or The Mandalorian right now. I believe until January 5th, I want to say, is when that closes.
Yeah, it's usually, and the results are usually revealed at Toy Fair, and Toy Fair won't be happening when it's supposed to, but they're usually revealed in February. And then, going to the digital side, we got to look at Storyboard Season 2.
Yeah,
we have
this is the YouTube series with where Joe Quesada basically talks to different celebrities who are involved in Marvel in one way or another, whether they're a collector or a longtime comic book reader or something like that. And so we already had the lineup for Season 2, but they kind of gave us a sneak peek at like little clips of each episode. So you can go on and check that out right now on laughingplace.com. I am personally looking forward to the Gillian Jacobs episode. I know she was also involved in Marvel 616, which is coming to Disney Plus. And I've also just been a huge fan of Community, so she's great.
Yeah, I feel like she would have been my favorite if I hadn't seen her speak at every Marvel 616 panel
right
a few months. So I'm kind of interested to see the Taboo from Black Eyed Peas.
That's another one, yeah.
Black Eyed Peas, it's usually Will.i.am or Fergie. So it'd be nice to get to know someone else from Black Eyed Peas who's not Will.i.am or Fergie.
Yeah, Taboo is also writing his own or co-writing his own comic series right now. So that's yeah.
Then back to merchandise. But a while ago, Box Lunch revealed their Eat the Universe line tied to that Eat the Universe web series and comic. But I guess they're doing a holiday line.
Yeah. So basically, a whole bunch of stuff with like candy canes and gingerbread Marvel characters. Which is fun. I've given in. I'm ready to buy into the holiday season at this point. So give me all the Marvel holiday stuff I can get.
My pumpkin spice sense is tingling. The Gingerbread Avengers Tower.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool stuff in this collection.
Share, enjoy, save the universe. Sisu. I don't know why that's capitalized.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm missing a reference there or something.
Yeah. And aprons, socks,
oven mitts, and everything you could need for making your holiday gingerbread houses or whatever. your gingerbread Avengers mansion. I really like these socks, by the way. I think you're just past them on there.
Yeah, let me get back to that tab. Hang on. There you go.
Yeah.
And then going to a more traditional merchandise line, Hasbro, in the midst of all the Mandalorian craziness, revealed some new items, including
get me pictures of the new Hasbro figure.
Yeah. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you collect action figures, you don't expect J. Jonah Jameson to be a part of the collection. So I love when you get those oddball kind of characters in there. And him holding the newspaper too is just great.
Yeah. And then, coming in that sort of retro packaging.
Yeah.
Just completely sells it.
Absolutely.
And then there's the War Machine helmet. So, last time we talked about how they had a Captain America Falcon and Winter Soldier shield.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I already have a Captain America shield from the MCU. I also don't know that I need a War Machine helmet if I have an Iron Man helmet.
That's fair. I thought you were going to say you already have a War Machine helmet. I was like, you are a hardcore collector if you've got that.
So, I'm limited. Obviously, if space was no object, totally would buy this. But there's only so many houses for helmets that.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm not.
You can't exactly just kind of like hang it on the wall or anything. It's a helmet.
Yeah, and it takes up some space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't. It's not as exciting, I think, as some of this, which I'm going to share in a second.
I'll just say it's easier to find a home for that J. Jonah Jameson figure than it is.
Yeah. Also, but you also don't get I don't have like a Betty Brant
right
figure. The Lucha Libre collection we talked about before, but now we actually getting some images.
Yeah. So this is incredibly unique. Very, very different. I said, you're a big collector if you have a War Machine helmet already. I guarantee nobody has any Marvel apparel that looks like this, because this is a very different collection celebrating Mexican culture and heritage. So really just a cool new collection of merchandise, apparel and accessories. There's all sorts of different bags. The only thing about it that I'm disappointed in is I can't get a Spider-Man Lucha mask. I thought that would for sure be a part of this collection. I'm going to have to find that somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah, I get. I'm not a huge Mexican wrestling fan. I mean, just because Disney hasn't bought it yet, I'm sure I would be if they did. But, it's different, and that's really cool.
Yeah, Rey Mysterio is about as far as I go into the Mexican wrestling history, but yeah, I like how different and unique this collection is. It's really cool. I love the colors of it and everything. It's just very fun.
Also, from the not for me but pretty awesome is the Loki collection from Rock Love, which I just think is cool.
Yeah, Loki is a great character to base jewelry off of, right? Like it is just such a different look that lends itself so well to this sort of collection. It looks great.
Rock Love is just so, it's like her universe of accessories.
Right. That's a really good comparison, actually. Yeah.
So anything else you want to talk about?
I think we hit all the big news from the past week. Oh, we did. Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum also talked briefly about their upcoming M.O.D.O.K comic series. They're working on Marvel's M.O.D.O.K, the Hulu stop motion animated series, which looks hilarious and I'm excited for. But they are also at the same time writing a comic series, which is going to be more serious take on the character, which fits more, with the history of M.O.D.O.K. But still kind of looks into those same themes and the background of the character. And Patton Oswalt sort of he referred to M.O.D.O.K as sort of justified in his mission of vengeance, which is very interesting. It's an interesting take on a comic book villain, right? Because they're bad guys. They want to do bad things, but they kind of give you his history and explain why he does the things he does.
It's interesting because M.O.D.O.K, I kind of felt we had M.O.D.O.K split personality. You have the very serious interpretation in Marvel's Avengers, the game. The video game. And then you have the silly, stop motion animation for Hulu. And those two things could not, obviously it's a big floating head. In the end, it can only be taken so seriously, but it sounds like this is going to kind of split the split the tone a little bit. I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be like not have any humor written by Patton Oswalt. I mean, that'd be
Right.
kind of sad. But you know, not it's also not, you know, Pet Avengers or anything like that.
Yeah, so this should be a fun read. I'm looking forward to it. Plus, sign me up for anything Patton Oswalt does. I'm always on board.
All connected. So I guess that's it. You know, I feel like we keep waiting for the big shoe to drop with like Marvel news, but it's gonna happen someday. Yeah. So anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I'm like you. I'm just still waiting for that big. It feels like something's coming, right? Like something is definitely coming. And I don't just mean King in Black, because that's coming in December. We're just less than a month away, but some sort of announcement.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, because even we don't even have a release date for WandaVision, but we know it's coming out before the end of the year, and we're running out at end of the year,
right?
And so I don't know, like, I know the world's in a rough spot, but like I would love just like a big sort of like, you know, here's where we're going, like here's our plan, here's where we're going, just to get us excited again. And the comics have been doing really well, but at the same time, you know, Marvel is much more than the comics, and you know, it's almost like every time we read an issue that was obviously designed to be tied to another entertainment offering like Black Widow or US Agent or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like it's just sort of a sad reminder that we're not getting the other product when we thought we would. And so it'd be nice to kind of recalibrate that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we just hit the point where Eternals would have been coming out, right? Like we're already, not only have we not gotten Black Widow and not getting it for almost another year, but now we're at a second movie that we would have gotten by now. So yeah, hopefully we just get something to be excited about soon. I mean, we're excited about WandaVision. We just want to know when we can, get it.
Yeah, and I think Mandalorian even made that yearning hurt a little bit more, because like it's been so fun to have Mandalorian and we have Mando Mondays every week. I kind of want that from Marvel too. I mean, we get, nice thing about comics is we get new comic books every Wednesday. But in the end, those are comics are inherently big every week. We're always going to have an event happening at all times. Right. Comics is these days, but it'd be nice to have something more than just every Wednesday. It'd be nice to have something on Fridays.
Yeah, that would be great.
So thanks so much, Mack. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go enjoy Hawaii.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.